horses probably around 2000, but I was a groom and a show groom before that. I experienced and saw how necessary was a good horseshoer and a good horse. Why? Because I saw many of my competition horses I take care of was sound on Friday and it was crippled on Monday. So from that experience, I started finding out how can I help these animals? How can I be that person for them? And meanwhile, I practiced, and then I found a person, Matt Myers, out west in Oregon. He worked with a lot of baby horses and a lot of breeding farms. And we did tremendous amount of work. I saw him how he picked up babies from the ground up. And then later on, 2 years later, you see that horse running and jumping, and you're like, this was the baby, they couldn't hardly walk. But you get to see the whole package, like you get to see what can you do at the right time, at the right moment for these animals. And, okay, now we can start. So, breeding for good feed. I found that to be really difficult. You want to start, for what I saw, you want to start when your mares, they have good enough feed that is not, a lot of times you get a club-footed horse and then you find this talented, really spectacular stallion, but a lot of the videos you see, they don't show you the bottom part. And that's why I always say, hey, can you send me a video of that horse walking to me and then walking away from me? Then I told Carly, nah, this one is not good enough. But that's the reason I never choose two problematic footed at the same time. If I have an upright horse, I won't choose a stallion with an upright foot. Even if it was the most spectacular animal, I will choose something else. And since we done that, we got better success on having manageable feed and minimizing the problem in that section. Nutrition is really important. Mares, they have really well nutrition, they have access to a lot of food, and they always very much, you look at them and they're like always fat, ready to feed. They babies grow up to have really strong hooves. Don't know, I have seen other farms, they don't have so much quality food. They always have, timing on feeding versus like they have food every day, every time, whenever they want it, is a difference. So I have seen difference on that. The other thing that I see is the start when a mare that has good feed. The beginning. The mare is the most important, not the stallion. I have seen more mares when good quality for the stallions. So, healthy foals, like when you foal is healthy and gets up and moves around. And it's the small things that I learned by myself looking at these animals. One of the things that I serve is, and I always aware now, is make sure they can bury as much weight evenly. It's difficult to pay attention to that because you want to make sure they're healthy, they're eating, they're pooping. You overlook the bottom part until like it's a little late, and you're like, well, why I didn't see that? Or why nobody told me? Or why my farrier didn't tell me? Well, it's because sometimes they don't show it to us. There's a baby in the backfield over there, and we didn't see it. So I always tell people that look at your babies when they are. As they growing, just go and pick at them. Just go and walk them, have the farrier come and see them, give you an opinion. What I watch is make sure when you're walking and they are moving, they are bearing as much weight in the front feet evenly. Not one is tiptoeing, not one is landing hard. You want to try that weight to be as even as it can be. Okay.
Next one?
Yes.
Oh,
next.
sorry.
Falls that need intervention. So this one, in my own self, we got a baby that we almost called it out. It was gonna be in the back. And I called Matt in Oregon, and he called me back, and I explained the situation. And he was like, no, don't call it out yet. You need to work with these animals. You need to do this, that. You need to trim, you need to put the fall shoes on it. You have about 3 weeks before that horse is done. So you can do it now and work with it. And we did, we worked with it. And it was, to see the changing, that's what it pushed me to share with you guys. When you see that changing, you wonder how many other falls you could help and save, very much, and keep in performance when you have the right tools to help them. When it's just a person that's like, oh, just trim it, it's okay. You know, just leave it, oh, it's not good enough, then that's not the right answer you want. You want someone that can tell you, if we do this and the vet can agree, then you get better outcome. But you have only like, when they have a problem, you have seriously about 2 weeks to decide what you're gonna do with that fall. And if you see babies, horses, baby hoof, when you see that fall comes out, just watch that foot, it's like a sponge. And then soon that skin breaks off, and less than 5 minutes, that is hard. That is ready to hold weight, that's ready to, so it's so fast that we cannot understand how this animal is growing so rapidly. Then is why you need to do these changes, that you need to help them sooner. Because later, when baby horses, later doesn't exist. You're very much done when you have glue shoes, you got extensions that you can do, but everything has to be done at the right time and when the vet helping you, because these are babies, they're not gonna stand quietly. It's a hard job to do. The thing is, the shoe doesn't have to stay on the foal for long periods of time. Is all you need is between 5 days to 10 days to create a positive change. Then it goes back to being barefoot. It goes back, and then you try to maintain it. And if it needs more help, then you add a little more help. But you go in a little bit of pieces. It's not like a horse that we shoe for 5 weeks. No, some of them only need like 5 days, and then the whole animal changes. So that's one thing that we don't understand. It's not a lot of time that we need to do this. It's days, and then you get your fall better. If you see, this is the one that we were calling him out. If you see, was a lot of deviation, a lot of uneven. It was like all the problems that we can engage on a baby horse, half of them are right there. And to show you that we didn't give up, I put glue on shoes with extensions, and then Carly, my wife, kept on taking pictures and kept on looking at the changes that were happening. And that's what I mean, like, it's not a lot of times that you're gonna shoe these horses and keeping them going. It's only the changes are for few days, and then you reevaluate. But a lot of times it's those days. Sometimes the farriers get too busy. And a lot of times, a lot of farriers have not really wanna do this because it's that percentage, so you can do the wrong thing and really hurt the horse. And it's a lot of times that's why they step away from it. But that's the difference between having to do the right thing and then wait and see what happens. Here is we already did the glue-ons for a couple of, like 2 weeks. We took them off, we did it again. And you can see he's already bearing weight evenly. So we left them another week with no shoes. And then we left them a few more months with no shoes, and we continued just trimming them. So it's only the amount of time that we put the glue shoes and the extensions at the right way that he wanted it. He wanted to some support in the outside, so since we did that and we took it out, then he stayed. So go ahead. And the young horses, when everybody asks me when to do young horses' shoes or how we trim it, you wanna trim your horse as much little as possible. Like you wanna watch him a lot, but you wanna touch him a little. Like for us farriers, it's because you want those horses to work for you. You want it to be sound for you. You don't wanna hurt him or make him too short, and then especially when you are trying to break him and start him in the program, you don't want that horse to get sore at all. Why? Because he won't go forward, and he won't tolerate the weight of the rider, and he won't agree to work as you want it. And sometimes I see him wear up and try to fight riders, and I say, hey, let's put some shoes on that horse and try him next week. And he's a totally different horse. But they already got him to a point that's painful for him. But you don't want to get to that point. That's my advice to you, is don't get to the point that it needs the shoes. You need to do it before, as the work is starting to increase, then you need to agree if it's gonna get shoes. The shoes that I always use in my young horses, aluminum shoes. Why? Because it's faster, lighter, and if he doesn't travel a little bit straight, it minimizes him from hurting himself and get a splints or any of that. And that's 2 or 3 times with that, then you can realize what can you do, what kind of discipline is gonna be. It's gonna be a jumper, a dressage horse. The aluminum is much easier on them when they are young. And the goals and performance is, like I always tell people, is not so much to make the horse they have spectacular movements, or make a horse that can do the job, stay sound when the minimum help. Like I like to see a horse that has just plain 4 shoes and is competing Grand Prix level. If you walk in a horse show right now and you find one horse at 100 that has only plain shoes, because everybody is like, we need to add this, we need to add that, it doesn't perform so well. It's not sometimes the horse, it's like what you do to it. This is why it's not performing well. And it's sometimes, it's not gonna be a Grand Prix horse, but it's gonna be a great jumper on a meter 30, then stay there. That's it. Don't, you got your horse when you want it, that's all. But sometimes we have the problematic, they are like, they want more and more and more. And like if you have a young horse with problems, I always work with the trainer, the vet, and we try them, they come in a team for the horse. So if the rider is telling me, I can make this horse go forward, and when I'm making a circle, when I'm changing leads, he fights me or tries the step hold, then I advise me, can we watch the horse go? Can you ride the horse for me? And can you do the movements when you have problems? Then you can see if it's something I can do, or the vet can advise me, oh no, look, it's higher up, it's not in the feet. So you can pinpoint the problems. A lot of times the vet say, oh, it's the feet. Then I show up and I'm like, it's not the feet, it's not sore. But nobody, him or I, look at the horse when you had a problem. When you had a problem riding it or trying to train it, and we don't have that moment when we all together, then you're never gonna get your answers. You're always gonna be misguided, or what problem is what you're looking at. And always, like I always told someone, as you own the horse, sometimes just watch your horse walk. Just watch him walk in front of you. Then you can say to me as a farrier, you can say, hey, you know, you trimmed him last time and he was walking different. Then 5 weeks later, he's walking better. What can he be? Can he be like you're trimming him a little too much? You know, and some people get offended, but it's true. If you see a horse walking really powerful, and then I come and I trim it, now that the son is walking like an eggshells, then it's not your horse, it's me. Then I didn't understand that he likes more food under his body. And today is the hardest thing to comply. Like, I have seen people that don't understand why they want these feet to be so small. If they have a 17-hand horse, he needs a big hoof. Okay. And the performance horses now, you have so many things that you can help your animals with. When pads, you know, bar shoes, aluminum shoes, you have every shoe that you can imagine available today. The sad thing, you don't have a lot of farriers that learn how to even make those shoes anymore. So they rely on these companies that make it for us. Lucky for me, I learned to burn my hands and make it myself. So, but it's a lot of times the most critical part is timing on shoeing your horse. A lot of people think 4 weeks, 5 weeks. My advice is 5 weeks to 5.5 weeks. Why? Because that is the time that the hoof needs to grow like 1/4 inch. On a healthy horse, that's about how much it's gonna grow. So you have that 1/4 inch to use, they move those nails down to create a new ribbon surface for the whole shoe, rather than just take the shoe off, dust the feet, and nail it back on. All you're doing is destroying your horse's feet. And that's not what you wanna do. When you have problems and you need to put pads, I never throw everything on one problem. I have vets that told me I need bar shoes and pads and gel and this, and I say, okay, how about we start with one thing? Then having the horse perform move. Then we have something that we can say, we did this and it didn't work. Now can we add this? Can we add this? Till you find what it works. But you throw everything and your horse gets sound and now you have a $500 shoe in your hub and you're like, okay, why is it so expensive? Well, you put like everything and you only needed a pad. So that's actually the most common problems I have. And I always tell people, be aware. Not because sounds good, it means it's gonna be good. At the end, it's gonna be your pocket and it's gonna be necessary. And if you have a horse to sell, when $500 shoe, I guarantee you'll be a lot of questions asked. Yeah. When somebody sees that horse with pads and bar shoes and this and that and a special, I guarantee you they're gonna be like 20 questions not necessary. They're gonna say, how long it's been on those shoes? Why? And all you say, well, the vet wanted it, and the farrier did it, and the horse is sound. But why? Nobody knows why, because they all threw just everything they could find to it. And the confirmation issues. Nowadays, really the most problematic horses I see is the ones that have long backs. Once I see an animal with long backs and try to put his legs under his belly to pick up himself, 90% they have suspensory problems. They can engage as well as one is compact and well performed. But it's only the long legs and the uneven length of the legs. Like, it's hard to spot on because sometimes you don't see it till they are like big animals. Now you can truly see it. And I've been encountered for like 10 horses in the past 5 years that they all got lameness issues and they all overlook that he have one leg shorter than the other. And then I finally said, hey, the problem is not the back, it's not the hip, it's not the neck, it's this, the leg, the cannon bone is smaller than the other. And we designed a shoe that left a horse up and it got better. So those small changes are when you breathe in, you want to see the whole package. You want to see, he didn't start like that. Probably the mare or the father has started like that. And over time, nobody realized it because they keep performing and they keep going well, to eventually becomes a problem. Okay. This is when I said, when you don't have the vet and the farrier at the same time. And the first picture was a horse that has a suspensory PH. You guys are familiar with that. They were calling the horse out, he's done, he can't do anything. The vet ordered a shoe that I made that is next to it. That's the shoe that he ordered to help that horse, to stay somewhere in the sound. But the other farrier, that wasn't me, I explained to him what the specifications, and that's what we got. So if you notice, it's not even close to be the same. But that's what you run into when you explain to someone and he doesn't say, I don't know what you're asking, I don't understand, can you help me? And then when the vet goes back and is like, this is not what I ordered. And then they call me and I'm like, well, I relay the message, but if the person cannot apply it, then it doesn't work. So that's the simplest way that I can put it. Like when you have problems, you have to have the ability to say, hey, you don't fix the problem, you need help, you want to call someone. But it's really hard for farriers to admit they don't know. This day I have met one farriers and they were like, I know what you mean now. If you know why I'm here. If you know what I need to do, why I'm here. And then they start learning. They're like, okay, yeah, I didn't know. Okay, that's much easy. When you don't know, then I can help you. But the last picture was a horse that has chronic heel pain. Chronic, like all his life is gonna have it. And that shoe was designed for a farrier in Indio, California, like in '99. And I thought the man was crazy. And I said, Bob, you're crazy. You lost your mind. You're 65 years old and you've been smoking too much huff. That shoe's not gonna help this animal. And he bet me dinner that night. Well, he didn't only help that horse win his class that night, and I paid for dinner that night. So that's to show you when you have the person that understand the problem and he can apply what it needs to be done to keep the horse sound and pain-free. It looks crazy, but it was sound and it performed for many years with that crazy shoe. And sometimes we rely so much on technology and what helps us, but you need to go back and learn how to do all that stuff because eventually you're gonna do it. And eventually you're gonna find a horse that benefits for that. And to me, that's the best feeling I get when I learn something and I apply it, and then you call me and it's like, the horse is beautiful, nice. We sold him, oh, I win. I'm like, perfect, it's all worth it. This is the one that I was telling you that it has uneven cannon bones. And for many years, it was lame, but it wasn't lame. It just, when his left front foot was growing and it grew so much higher, he looked lame because it was so uneven. So when my mentor Don called me and he said, measure his cannon bones when a tape measure. So I measure it and I said, we're missing about 1/8 of an inch. It's like, well, you need to apply a shoe that's 1/4 of an inch thickness. And it's not only a wet shoe, you have to apply more. You have to somehow make the horse even. So we end up, that's the left front at the end. Nothing, just a regular shoe, and that's his problematic foot. And he performed pre-St. George for another 8 years with those crazy shoes. And so you have to just look at the animals and look what you have. And this is another problems that I encountered. This was a broken side bone The vet say we have to figure out how to stabilize that area and the horse that well, he recuperate. The other one, he kicked the wall so hard he broke his coffin bone. And all these are shoes that you cannot buy, you have to make them. And then the horses will do better. It's just like you go into a doctor and you break your hand, they put a cast on. They don't go to Walmart and get you a brace. And those are at the end, those were Manny's first set of fall shoes. So those shoes were applied like 10 days after he was born. So, and any questions you have, anything you want me to ask, you're free to contact me, send me pictures, and I always help you if I can. So.
Do you do radiographs of your young, like say a foal, if you're trying to shape a hoof in a different direction? How early would you do radiographic intervention to help?
I only have done radiographs around a year and a half to 2 years old.
Okay.
Babies, we haven't done any radiograph because the bone is not fully grown yet. It's like a shadow. I have seen radiographs in hospitals that they take out of babies just for studies. If you see the coffin bone, it looks like a sponge. It hasn't fully calcified. All the bones haven't calcified. All the P1, P2, P3, they haven't calcified. They stay like in a shadowy looking, transparent way. That's why we don't worry too much about it. We worry more about the ligaments, the tendons, and the way that the horse is bearing weight. That's what you're worrying when they're a baby. You want it to start being balanced. You know, and when I mean like watch your horses is when they're growing, you know, they grow up and down. I don't trim the horses when they're growing. I don't trim the side they're growing. So if it's uphill right now, I don't trim the front feet, I just trim the back feet. Because he's bearing weight and he's trying to hold himself when he's doing this. Sometimes he's bearing more weight than that's at you. When he's in the front end, I just look at it. If it's chips, I just file the chips off and leave him alone. And that is what I mean. You want to keep him bearing weight evenly, but take consideration that he's changing, his body's changing. And sometimes guys don't look at that, they just go and trim the whole horse, and that's what I mean.
That's what most farriers do.
So he's not like trying to save money or don't want to do your horse, but it's not necessary.
What sort of trimming interval do you like with foals and yearlings? Normal ones or ones that are upright on one end?
Well, when I mean like when you have a foal that's looking upright and he's looking really upright, like when it's like a little can almost, those you need to put like extensions to get him to bury weight down. So when it's like upright, we use the toe extension on that to push him down. But those are like, when they are babies, you can try to rasp them down you have days till you can create a big change. But it's sometimes hard because a lot of guys that I know, they're like, oh, well, I can't go and trim your baby. It's not, I'm not in your area today. So it's difficult to find a person that understands that you do have time that you can fix it. But it's agreeing with that. Like, yeah, I can stop by and it take me like 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes create a better horse for you. But
normal foal or yearling?
Normal foal or yearling, I just look at them, and if they need to be trimmed, I tell you, and I will say, hey, keep an eye on this one. If you start open up too much, if you start trying to be waist wide or that foot start going out, let me know, because we can do something about it. But like between 2 months and 2 to 6 months, that's when you can trim a healthy baby, keeping them as straight as you can and do all these little changes.
Yeah, I had, thoroughbred foal that I bred, came out and feet are like this.
Yeah.
Toed out pretty bad. But, one of the things I read from a farrier was that you don't look at the toes, you actually wanna stand in front of each foot. And
Yeah.
if the leg lines up with where the toe goes, you don't wanna try to turn it in.
No.
You just wanna hold the foot up and keep it level
Yes.
and put it down. And what happens is the foal's chest widens as they grow the first 3, 4, 5 months. And guess what? That pushes the elbows out and turns the toes in. So you don't wanna over trim if they toe out, cause you can actually create a toe-in horse that wasn't genetically that way.
Yeah, no, that's why I said you got to find the person that can understand what the problem is, because you can create problems. Yes, it's a lot of times I see they create worse problem than what you started with.
Ones I have not been able to fix is the ones that toe in right away, cause it's
Yeah.
hard to turn them out.
It's hard to turn them, and I have seen they still toe in, but we minimize it, and that's one of the things. Be happy with what you got. Like when he's 2 years old, and you're gonna start thinking about getting him under saddle and working him, you don't wanna think about that. You don't wanna think about, oh, I have to keep it straight. The horse is gonna tell you how he travels, and all your job is as a farrier is created to hit that ground evenly as he can. And that rest, he can do it himself. The rest, he's gonna travel the way he wants to. We cannot control his natural movement. That is impossible.
What recommendations do you do with a horse that has a really wide foot? You just let it be wide, or do you recommend shaping it so it's not so big?
Well, sometimes a lot of people keep the horses thinking the wide foot is the stronger foot, that's what it's gonna be. It's the most buried, that's the one that's gonna bury more weight. So it's the more sensitive foot. Any horse that has the wider foot. I always guide, you look at your hairline, if you have a really wide hairline, the horse has a wide foot. But if your hairline is narrow and your foot is this big, then you have a lot of flare and a lot of foot is not necessarily be there. So the hairline is the one that dictates how big the hoof is. And that's sometimes what a lot of times you leave too much foot, then it start growing and it start expanding, and now they don't realize that you getting too much foot on a horse. Or now it's flaring now because he's putting too much weight. The foot that he buries more weight is the wider foot. All the horses have a narrow foot and a wider foot, all of them. When we make shoes, it's centimeters, millimeters difference between one another. These barely moments when we have two perfect shoes is not possible. It's not. You have that always thinking about, oh, I'm gonna have a perfect foot. No. Sometimes if you make a horse have perfect feet, it's lame. 90% of the time it's lame.
So would you recommend then putting shoes on a horse that's flaring, or just trim it more often?
If take in consideration how long your trims are and how much that it grew. So if it's in 5 weeks, your horse grew and it's so flare out, and then the farrier comes and it looks the same, then it needs to be addressed differently. But if it's trim and it looks better and it's sound, then advice is what you're doing with the horse. If he's getting to be in a train moment, like he's gonna get ready to be getting ready to ride and compete and all that, that's what you're taking advice, like putting the shoes to maintain it for longer period of time, yes. But if he's not working, if he's just still growing, no, putting shoes on, no, just maintain it with a trim over it.
The shape of the foot is genetic, guys, so some of them have very vertical hoof walls, and some of them have hoof walls that slope. The ones that slope out, you need to let them slope out. That's not necessarily a flare, it just means they got a big foot. And somebody totally ruined a horse I sold to him, and I said, she wears a number 2 shoe. Do not try to put her anything smaller, cause she was kind of a big-footed horse with flat soles.
Yeah?
They took her, changed her shoeing,
And it's
and
late.
she was lame for a year before she could grow out a new foot.
Yeah,
So
that's,
don't change the shape of the foot unless it's, you know.
I have, you know, in my job, I have see X-rays of horses, and it surprised me when sometimes these professionals, they went and did all these degrees and certifications, and I just look and I say, hey, where the foot went?
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? What? I said, you don't have any foot in this horse, that's why it's lame. No, I didn't trim anything. Well, why did you trim? Well, I did this, well, all that foot is what he needed to be sound. So sometimes I look at the customer and I say, I hope you didn't want to ride this horse for another 2 months, because that's what it's gonna take for him to be sound. And, you know, be honest, you know, a long time ago, I used to watch Don telling people how it is, and they were like, oh, Don is mean, he told us all this, but it actually is necessary this time. It's necessary now, tell someone, hey, you just screw up today. and it's not kindly, but it's necessary because they make so many excuses, and then they go, well, now I need glue on shoes, now I need this. You started when a horse, they have perfectly good feet. You started, you bred that horse, you know that horse, you know his history since he was a baby. And now you're getting all these messages that you sell them a horse this lame, a horse that need a special shoeing. And it's nothing you did. It's down the road what they encounter, and down all these new ideas that are up there. But they forget that the horse, bottom line, the horse needs feet to do his job. Then just like the old say, no hoof, no horse.
So at what age is it too late to make structural changes?
Really crooked or really uneven, about when they hit 1 year, you very much done with that. Like when you saw that baby we did it in 10 days, then the shoes came off, then we trim it, and I still managed to trim it the whole time. And then now it's as straight as it can be. And we were like, that's why I say when you see what you can do is great. It's amazing the outcome. But I have seen the wrong things be done too, and it's like, I see performance horses that are like, you could have fixed this when it was 10 months old. But, so but they're still performing and doing their job the best that they could.
I've been told with club-footed feet that you need to do it sometime between early weaning and 6 months if you're gonna do the correction with the change.
Yes, and like when club feet is tricky, because like I say, if the father and the mother both has club feet, you're gonna end up with one. If either one don't have it, then chances are you can fix it and end up with an upright foot, which is better than a club foot. But an upright foot can appear to the wrong managed trimming and shoeing like a club foot. Yes, it can be. If the person don't understand that, then it can be looking horrible, and it's not necessarily what it's supposed to look like. But it's always look at it. My advice is always keep an eye on your horses. Don't be afraid to question the farrier you have. Ask him point blank, can we do anything about this horse, or we need someone that can help us? And it's not, like I say, I call my mentors. I say, what did I do with this? I don't know. They're telling me that, don't you remember? I'll be calling you if I remember. So, and sometimes that's the problem, that nobody reach out to say, hey, I have this problem, how can we fix it? So,
What about the different footings? A lot of places are going to synthetic footings now versus the sand. And I find that some synthetic footings pack in the horse's feet, and if the horse has a sensitive sole, it will make them a little bit sore.
yes, there's a lot of times the thin sole horses, they have problems with when the different footings. Like going from your house, there has a footing, the horse always been worked on.
Yeah.
Then you go to a venue, who knows what they have, everybody is different these
Yeah.
days. Everybody tells you they have the highest and
I
the
know,
best.
but I've noticed some of the synthetic footings.
And
really
they do
pack.
pack, different ones they do pack, and some of them harder than others.
And the deadness.
And that makes them, some of them a little sore, yes.
So I've noticed that. We spray as quick as we can.
Yeah.
I
Man,
mean,
but-
and, you know, just before it goes in the ring, you spray it, and then it just keeps it from packing. But, you know, it's just kind of backside horses.
Yeah,
Problem,
it's always a
and
problem.
sand is good.
The simple, the simple arena, the simple, I have seen horses working really nicely on just grass field. And then they bring them to an arena and it's like, not the same horse that you saw over there.
Yeah.
And what did I tell you? Sometimes we create and all this, we think like they gonna like it. We think horses live in the wild, they live in rocks, they live.
Yeah, so that's what I've noticed a little bit.
We just, a little too much, I think. It's getting out of control when, I love technology and I love all this, but it's getting frightening. The knowledge that we have from the animals is not there. Like, we are getting more trouble. You have more horses hurt on these
Yeah.
arenas. You got more injuries than used to happen. So you have a lot
So that does have
different.
an impact on the outcomes, so
Yeah.
that's what I started to realize.
Anything else? Anybody have any more questions?
What kind of continue with what Anna said, like, do you see with the newer synthetics, since a lot of them are really grippier, they don't have as much give in them, do you see that like messing up your shoe jobs a little, where it's like the shoes are moving a little bit around on their feet, or is it just like hoof concussion is the main issue?
The main problem I see is the hoof concussion, like when they pack the ball up because now the horse is not landing flat, it's landing in that ball there. And it's not like ideal for them. When they hit the ground, they're supposed to sink a little bit, not float.
Yeah.
So that's what we see is a lot of the times you see them skipping and floating. And everybody has different ways to deal with it. Some people put like a little traction studs and it's like, that arena is supposed to be the best of the best. Why you need traction studs on it? So, it's all over different scenarios, but yes, the footing is a lot, it has changed a lot. And everybody has different ideas and all. That's why I say it's frightening what we see now in technology. Everybody comes with new shoes, new pads, new saddles, new bits, new everything. And that's frightening, but that's what it's heading to. So, already, thank you very much.